All right, good. James, what's going on? I know you've been doing a lot of reading.
Yeah. So our grocery order for Passover didn't really come through in time. So our initial plans for a Seder were kind of a wash. So we
Yikes.
sort of spread Passover out over a number of days. And I actually made matzah, which was kind of fun.
Wow.
But it was like, it's like Middle Eastern flatbread, like kind of like pita bread almost. But it wasn't like cardboard, which was nice. And we watched Prince of Egypt with my son, and we talked through parts of the Haggadah, and we talked about kind of the Passover story. And we've been doing regular walks as a family, and part of that has been just sort of talking about how Passover is relevant right now. And we were talking, he wanted to know what a plague was, so that's been something we've been talking about. It's been on our mind. So
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, so it hasn't been a real traditional Passover, but I still feel like it's been meaningful.
So I just put up in the chat box, Kat says we watched it. There was this show, I guess it must have been Saturday Night Seder. If you have not seen it, I highly recommend it. I think you know me well enough to know that I am not a TV media kind of a person. But we were sitting around Saturday late afternoon. I was reading, and Ron was on Facebook on his phone, and he pulled this thing up, and he's watching it, and he was so captivated. He was like, "You got to see it. You got to see it. You got to see it." And I finally succumbed. Okay, say Havdalah, go watch it. It was so worthwhile.
We watched it too. We loved it.
Who was that?
Us.
Yeah.
Jen and Mark. We watched it too. We loved it.
What did you love about it?
Well, I'm a musical theater person.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, they're all my heroes. I thought everybody was fantastic. I thought a lot of the commentary was insightful and fun and fresh. And yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, the voices, that lady who sang the 4 questions, the guy who sang Go Down Moses, and just incredibly fabulous voices. And then some beautiful, meaningful commentary in there. And there was a whole section about Somewhere Over the Rainbow being written in 1939. And so they did Somewhere Over the Rainbow interspersed with scenes of what was going on in Germany in 1939. And it just gave you a whole different perspective.
Tears flowing.
Yeah.
What was the name of it?
It's called Saturday Night Seder. I put it in the text box.
I didn't know that was the name. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I can't recommend it highly enough. I actually sat captivated. It maybe was a little tiny bit long, but super good, really worth watching. And I was especially touched by the adaptability of Jewish ritual. You look at a ritual that's been part of Judaism for thousands and thousands of years, and you see how incredibly relevant it is to the contemporary moment. And that really made me feel very moved and proud. So Jill, what's going on in your world?
So we had a Seder with Kat and Michelle and Jessica, and it was awesome. We went through the whole thing. We sang, we ate, we prayed, we took the blessings. It was so cool.
Excellent. And you're doing well otherwise?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Yeah. And Jessica, what's your report?
I'm doing well, thank you. Getting by. We are also starting a container garden out back. So hopefully we'll have some like fresh vegetables soon-ish. For Passover, I went to the first night Seder, and then I was fortunate enough to attend the virtual second night Seder with Temple Chai, which was great because it it turns out that a friend of mine that I haven't talked to for 8 years is a member of Temple High and was
Oh
on
my
the
God,
Seder.
that's so fantastic.
Yeah, so he messaged me after that. And then whenever we can actually like leave our homes again, you know, we'll get together for a Shabbat dinner and
That's so
catch
great.
up. So
How
that was
fun.
cool. Yeah.
Very
I
special.
made,
It's very special.
yeah. The last thing that I guess I would say is I made matzah brie for the first time yesterday
Uh-huh.
and I liked it. So I made it again today. Now I'm out of eggs. So I kind of I'm not out of matzah. But I'm out of eggs. So I'm like, should I wait or should I just do something else with it? But
Yeah,
we'll see.
so for next year, like the week before Passover, you have to buy like 3 dozen eggs. We had a couple of eggs left in the carton, and I sent Ron to the store for 2 dozen eggs, and he's like, we already have eggs. And 2 days later, he bought 18 more eggs.
Uh-huh.
It's a very egg intensive holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you guys make yours?
Matzah brie?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell you how I do it, and then anybody else can chime in. So you take the matzah, and it works better with the white flour matzah because Ron eats the gluten-free, I eat the whole wheat, but it's better with just the white flour matzah. You soak it in some hot water for 5-10 minutes. Then you drain the water out, squeeze the water out, add some eggs in, add some cinnamon and some vanilla, and form it into patties and then fry the patties up. So that's kind of a sweet matzah brie. There are people who make a savory, but I don't know what's up with that. Anybody have a different recipe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of the savory people.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, my mother used to make it when I was a kid, so I don't know if she's hearing this now. So I think I make it the way that she made it, which was, I mean, I do the soaking it, but I kind of just fry it in the pan like it's an omelet a little bit and just with stuff, and it all kind of tosses together.
Yeah, so what do you put in for the savory ingredients?
Depends on what I got on hand. I mean, this week it was like salt and pepper and thyme and oregano, so kind of the then typical eggy stuff.
Yum. All right. You got something to do with the leftover matzah. Jen and Mark.
Sorry, I'm eating. We're doing okay. We had 2 consecutive seders in one day. We had our first Zoom seder with my family on the East Coast. So it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon for us. So we did that seder. And then we did the second seder with Kat, Michelle, and Jill and Jessica, which was a lot of fun. So it was a lot of sedering, and a lot of singing of this, although none of us did go down Moses like Billy Porter did. And other than that, he's still been working. I have not, so I'm going maybe a little more stir crazy than he is. Just trying to apply for unemployment, and it's incredibly frustrating. And
Wow.
applied for a couple of artist grants, seeing if that will come through. Doubtful, and just trying to find other things to do. That's about it.
Yeah, good luck with all of that.
I just feel like I'm working all the time to try. It's kind of a threatening environment now because so much is going on in lending. So many changes are happening right now, and so they're just really piling on the pressure and the stress. So it's after this is over, I'm going back to work. So it's just nuts. So
now that he's working from home, there's no
break. He's just working. Wake up.
I understand. Yeah.
Wild.
So
I'm getting a little stir crazy myself, but just need to get out. I'm an outdoors person, so I feel like I'm locked in the house.
Are you hiking or walking or?
We get for walks, but I really don't want to hit the hiking trails. They're pretty crowded, and it just seems irresponsible to do it. And
We need to find a hiking trail that not a lot of people know about.
more remote.
Well, we've been doing a lot of the mountain biking at McDowell Mountain, out in Fountain Hills.
Uh-huh.
And not a lot of people out there. So I definitely recommend that.
Maybe that'll be a Sunday activity for us.
Yeah, 'cause we're gonna drive or get out somewhere on Sunday.
Yeah, it's a bit of a drive, but the desert has been incredibly beautiful and not super crowded.
We were already planning on, we just decided we were going to take the car and drive someplace, even if it was just seeing it from the window of the car. We just need to get out of the house and see some of the world.
Yeah.
Besides our neighborhood and the Fry's marketplace next door.
Yeah. And Marissa and Peter, how are you?
We're good. When that storm came in on Sunday, whatever day it was, made our allergies go crazy. So it's like, are we sick or are we allergic?
Ay, ay, ay.
I feel better now though, so figure it's allergies. But yeah, I've been good. For our Seder, we usually go to Marissa's family, but this time we just stayed in and had our own mini Seder and just went through the Haggadah book that we got for the class.
Great.
And Marissa kept correcting my pronunciation every time I tried to sing something.
All right. It's a learning process for all of us.
But yeah, that's pretty much what we did.
Anything to add, Marissa?
Nope.
Okay, Brianna and Brad.
We've been pretty good. On Saturday, we did our virtual Seder with my family, and it was nice. The only time that we've otherwise done a Seder was when I was a little kid. It just hasn't really been a part of our family's tradition, so it felt nice bringing that into my family and hopefully making it a tradition we keep moving forward. And we had hoped to include Brad's family, but it was just a little bit difficult getting everyone together for that. So next year, hopefully we'll all be together for that. And otherwise, we've just been doing projects around the house to keep us from going too stir crazy.
Yeah.
So
You doing okay?
Yeah. Brad's been home for about 5 weeks. I've been home for about 3.5. So we're not too on top of each other yet.
All right. Well, glad you're doing okay. What about Anna and Alex?
Hi there. We actually had really, really nice Seders that I don't think would have happened if we weren't on lockdown. We got a big chunk of my family together that isn't normally together for a Seder. The first night and the second night, a bunch of my friends who I'm not sure would go to a Seder if they had other things to do.
Yes.
I got a lot of people, and I actually used Haggadot.com. Really cool interface. Put together a bunch of different things, and I made it a little bit more kind of introspective and social justice oriented for a Seder, and everyone really liked it. So it was really fun to run those and just do Seders that I wouldn't normally get to do.
Yeah, so there are a few little silver linings in this moment.
Yeah.
And Alex did a really good job of organizing it, and I think everybody really appreciated all of the work you put into it. It was really cool.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica?
I've already gone. I had to join on a different device.
Okay.
Okay.
No worries. Mike and Sarah, we don't see you, but are you there?
Yes, we're here.
So tell us how you're doing and how your Passover was.
Passover was really great. We ended up having a Seder on Wednesday with Sarah's parents. Fortunately enough, we've been seeing each other pretty much once a week, and we're not that afraid of, and we're washing our hands, doing the correct things. The Seder was great. I surprised the family a bit with Go Down Moses, because I used to sing baritone, and stretch those legs just a little bit.
Nice.
And then to get out of the house on Friday, Sarah looked at me as like, we have to get out of here. And so we ended up driving all the way up to Crown King by truck. That was 2.5 hours of rough, dirty road, but some beautiful scenery. So it was good.
Nice. Yeah, as I was saying, we've really been enjoying the wildflowers that we've been mountain biking, and it's just a spectacular season. Good.
Oh.
And Alexis and Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. Want to show our faces?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, come on. There you are.
So we did a Zoom Seder with Jonathan's family.
Allie arranged the whole thing.
Yeah, I set it
It was
up.
awesome.
So it was fun.
My mom was very impressed. My Jewish mother was so happy.
Good. Well, when mama's happy, everyone's happy.
Yeah.
Good. All right. And you guys doing okay otherwise?
Yeah.
Not going too stir crazy or anything?
No, we're hiking and biking and
Yeah.
walking whenever we can. So
Getting outside, getting exercise.
mm.
A lot of
If
coffee.
anyone has a Peloton they want to
Oh, yeah.
sell, we'll buy it because it says it'll
We'll
take
buy
5 weeks on the website.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Where do you bike?
Around Arcadia. And then we hiked Dreamy Draw, and then just did the Phoenix Mountain Preserve the other day.
Yeah. How crowded did you find those?
Not bad at all.
It is. We're hiking in areas I didn't even know existed. I mean, it's just, you get like this whole new appreciation for Arizona. Like it's just unbelievable. I mean, the quality of the hikes and on the mountains, and just, I mean, it's just so great. And most places they'll allow for dogs, which is great.
Yeah, we're going to Brown's Ranch tomorrow late afternoon. Do you ever bike up there?
No.
No, where's that?
Yeah, if you take Alma School till it dead ends. It dead ends into this incredible hundreds of miles of well-marked mountain biking and hiking trails. Brown's Ranch.
Brown Branch. Oh, we'll have to check it out.
Yeah, highly recommend it. Beautiful. Georgianne said she was going to be late. Oh, there she is.
Let me unmute. Hello, I'm here.
So we're just wondering
Awesome.
how you're doing, and what'd you do for Passover?
Well, what I did was it was just my husband and me here. I'm not really a cook, but I cooked, and I had a Seder plate, and I did everything. And my husband, I think it was like one of the first ones he ever had since we were married. It's been 30 years, all right, with me. So anyway, it was very special. And, it was, I used the book and I just followed it. And then the next night, I just zoomed in on another Seder. But I felt successful that I put something together nicely, and I tried my best to follow it.
Amen.
So that's all I can say.
That's perfect. And Carmen, we don't see you, but are you there? Carmen? No.
I believe Carmen also doesn't have a microphone.
Oh, Carmen. Oh, hi, Carmen. We love you. All right, good. Is there anybody we didn't hear from? No. Okay, so we have the light and easy topic of God and theology here this evening. And I wanted to start off on the very last page of your handout. If you don't have it, I posted it in the chat box, so you should be able to download it. And I'd rather just look at all of your faces rather than the screen. So, if you need me to screen share, I could do that, but hopefully everybody had a chance to acquire the document. So I'm on the last page, there's a reading by Rabbi Aaron Zeitlin that I think is very meaningful on the theme of God. And he says, "Praise me, says God, and I will know that you love me. Curse me, says God, and I will know that you love me. Praise me or curse me, and I will know that you love me." So that's intensely Jewish. This is my last class with you all. You'll have Rabbi Sarah Mason Barkin next week. But, you remember at the very first class, I talked about that Jewish value of asking questions and specifically of questioning God. And I think Rabbi Aaron Zeitlin captures that sentiment so beautifully in this prayer that he's written. Praise me or curse me, at least you're engaged in the relationship. Sing out my graces, says God. Raise your fist against me and revile, says God. Sing out graces or revile. Revile is also a kind of praise, says God. But if you sit fenced off in your apathy, says God, if you look at the stars and yawn, if you see suffering and don't cry out, if you don't praise and you don't revile, then I created you in vain, says God. So for me, that really captures the Jewish relationship with God. It's okay to be praising God. It's okay to be cursing God, but we want to have some relationship with God. I think the bigger question that we want to look at tonight is, who is this God? How do we imagine this God with whom we are in relationship? And personally, I'm very attracted to what we call the process theology, God as an adverb, God as an attribute, rather than God as a noun. So we see that in the next selection from Rabbi Ira Eisenstein, who says, nobody ever saw electricity. So similarly, nobody ever saw God. We know that it exists. We can see and feel what electricity does. If we have an electric bulb and connect it with an electric wire, we get light. If we have an electric heater and connect it, we get heat. In other words, we get to know what electricity is by what it does. In the same way, we get to know what God is by what God makes us do. So again, another theme that we've had throughout this class has been Judaism's emphasis on works versus faith, on doing, on behavior rather than belief. So it doesn't really matter what you believe about God, how you understand God. I think I've mentioned before, why in our prayers do we say, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, rather than God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, because we understand and appreciate that everybody has their own understanding and concept of God, and that's okay. But what does your understanding of God motivate you to do? That's the critical question, not how do you see God, but what's the impact in your life of your perspective on God. So in the same way, we get to know what God is by what God makes us do. When a person is, so to speak, connected with God, he does good things. Whenever this force is active, we say that God has exercised influence and power. So we know what God is by what God makes us do. So if God is motivating us to feed the hungry and clothe the naked and be kind and be honest, then we know something about the God that we worship through that God idea and the impact on our behavior. And then Rabbi Harold Kushner, God will come to mean that impulse in the human collective and in the universe as a whole, which helps us to identify that which is good and true and worthwhile, and which moves us to pledge ourselves to live up to it. So I put that out as kind of the foundation of my approach to this topic. And then let's go back to the front of the packet. One of the things that we see in Jewish tradition is the many, many, many names of God. Traditionally, we say that we have 70 different names of God. So we talk about God as the compassionate, God as the judge, God as the ruler, God as the healer, God as the shepherd. So we see all of these different nuances of God, and we understand that these are each aspects of God. You remember when we talked about Yud He Vav He as the name of God, and we said that we talk about all of these different aspects of God, these different names of God, but really it's Yud He Vav He is the name of God. And you remember when we talked about when Moses is standing at the burning bush and he says to God, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, don't make me go, I'm not going. And God says, you're going. And Moses says, okay, so when I come to Egypt, the Israelites are going to ask me, who is this God who's sending you? What is God's name? And who remembers what is God's answer to Moses? What does God say when God says when Moses says, "What is your name?" What's God's answer?
This
I am.
I am that I am.
I am. I am.
I am what I am. Actually, it's the future tense. So I will be what I will be. I am becoming what I am becoming. So basically, you can't pin me down to any one name. I will be whatever I will be. I have many different manifestations, many different aspects, many different names. So if you look in your handout on pages 2 and 3, you'll see some of this myriad of names of God. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'll give you about 5 minutes or so. I want you to look through this list of names of God and do 2 things. I want you to circle the 3 names of God that you most relate to, and the 3 names of God that you totally cannot relate to. So let's do that for a couple of minutes. And I'm just seeing if maybe I can put on a little music while we do that. Maybe not. I'm going to work on some music. So you have your assignment. 3 names that you love, 3 names not so much. been working on an assignment, so I gave him a little background music. All right, about 1 more minute. All right, good. So let's see, I want to hear from each of you then, just to share one name of God that you really resonated with, and one name of God that you couldn't really relate to. And, you know, the best way I know to do this is just to work across my screen as it appears. So Lisa, Lisa, you're, you don't have your voice. So Lisa, if you could just type something up in the text box for us, and we'll move on to Marianne. Marianne, which of these names of God do you really connect with?
Oseh Shalom.
Oh, that's beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit why?
You know, I think a lot of these that I, you know, identify with are from, because I heard them so much from song and prayer and etc. But I just feel that, you know, even though we question in times what's going on in the world, you know, that when it comes down to it, I just think that God is a giver of peace.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Marianne is in the temple choir, so she probably knows a number of melodies for Oseh Shalom. Do you have a favorite, Marianne?
No, I don't think so.
No?
No, because I can only think of the one that we sing every Friday. You know, the other ones are so infrequent that
Yeah.
I can't think.
Oseh Shalom Bimromav. Is that the one you're thinking?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
But then there's also the Oseh Shalom Bimromav.
Yeah.
Right? I love that also. And was there one that you were like, I can't connect with that?
The one that I have never connected with is Shekhinah. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah, and I didn't ever hear that until, I don't know, maybe 5 or 8 years ago.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, it just didn't hit me as the.
So Shekhinah is very interesting. So Lishkon is to dwell. So Shekhinah is God as immanent, the God being close to us. And you're not that transcendent, unknowable, infinite God, but God close to us, with us in our struggles. Shekhinah is traditionally understood as the feminine aspect of God. So it's very interesting to me to hear you say that you can't connect to that, because a lot of times for women, that's a very powerful and positive image, this feminine interpretation of God. But Shekhinah is the God who cries with us, who is with us in our exile, and yet not so much for you.
No. Well, I didn't have that explanation of that either.
Okay, so I would encourage you then, Marianne, to maybe explore a little bit about Shekhinah. Yeah, Shekhinah is the feminine aspect of God, and God as immanent as opposed to transcendent. So something to think about.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Let's see what Lisa said. Fairly negative view of God due to my perception of the evil done in the name of God. Well, that's certainly a challenge. The perspective I have encountered here makes more sense to me, especially as expressed in process. Resonated Yedid Nefesh, beloved of the soul. So that's one of the opening prayers that we often sing on Friday night, Yedid Nefesh. It is a very beautiful idea. Yedid is almost like friend, it's like, again, like Shekhinah, very close, very warm, very intimate and personal. And then you talked about Ish Milchama, a very challenging idea on many levels. So this comes from the book of Exodus, and it's very timely for the Passover story, because as the Israelites transition through the Red Sea from slavery to freedom and the parting of the waters, Moses sings what's called the Song of the Sea. And it's in, let me just look it up here. It should be in Exodus, probably about 22. Let me just find the reference here. All right, so it's not jumping right off the page at me, but it's there in Exodus, and Moses describes God as Adonai Ish Milchama, and it's challenging to me because, first of all, it's this war image, God is a warrior God, but Ish literally means man, so I've never quite been able to wrap my head around that God is a man of war. Not only that God is a warrior, but God is a man, Ish Milchama. So I'm kind of with you on that. I struggle with that, even as someone who served in the military for so many years and, was a soldier. So let's see, Kat and Michelle.
All right, so the one that kind of resonated with me was AA, Asher, AA. I can't.
Yeah, Asher, yeah, that's what we were saying. Yeah, so that was the one, I'm becoming what I'm becoming. I will be what I will be. That was God's own answer when asked, what's your name?
Yeah, it kind of resonated with me because it's kind of like, I don't know, my own kind of personal image of God in my head, I guess, is that we don't really entirely know, what God is, because God takes so many different forms, I guess. I don't know. It's the best way I've got of describing it. And the one that didn't kind of really resonate with me was Mechaye Hametim.
Mechaye Hametim, the one who gives life to the dead.
Yeah. It's like, sorry, like nobody's coming back to life after they leave. He's not now. So
right. So you might recall that that phrase is part of the Amidah, Mechaye Hametim, and traditionally understood. Remember in our class on death, we talked about this idea that at some point we might be physically resurrected. And that's what that refers to. But I will tell you a place where we use that prayer, which, by the way, actually I'm thinking is incredibly relevant to the situation we're in with this quarantine, which is that if you haven't seen friends for a number of months, when you see them, you traditionally say that blessing. Blessed are you, Adonai Mechaye Hametim, you resurrect the dead. And I think we're all going to be able to really relate to that idea, hopefully sooner rather than later, when we're able to see each other face to face for the first time. It's as if, we were dead and reborn. So actually, I want to write that down because I think that's pretty interesting. Good. Okay, James, we're up to you.
Sure. So I really liked Ein Sof.
Ein Sof, yeah, Ein Sof.
And I think part of it was because I just read Man is Not Alone by Abraham Joshua Heschel. Talks about having a relationship with God as this encounter with the ineffable, and sort of the broad and not easily classifiable, right? The sort of beyond our understanding. And it also, as a former English teacher, it resonated with me because I was really interested in Victorian literature and focused on interrogation of the sublime with my kids, and this idea of like man being insignificant before this impossibly large and wondrous force. So rather than, that's a more attractive way for me to think about God than it is to think about some sort of personified, unmoved mover, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm showing you the Kabbalistic tree of life, which we talked about when we talked about counting the Omer, and we're in that period now of counting the Omer. We're on day 5, and so the Ein Sof is God is kind of out there, ultimately unknowable, and then the idea was that the divine energy flows down to us through these various what are called Sefirot, until God down here, God with us, that's where the Shekhinah would dwell, Marian. But yeah, the Ein Sof is kind of like up here, ineffable, inaccessible, unknowable. And it does sort of convey that majestic, unknowable, inaccessible, just totally ineffable, grand idea of God.
And so, as we often do, my mother and I were on the same wavelength on this one. So I had written down God of War.
Yeah, Ish Milchama.
But since that one's already been taken, the other one I wrote down, Master of Legions. The ones where.
What's the Hebrew on that? The master.
I got to pull it up again.
Adonai Tzvaot, maybe, but I don't see that. What?
Yeah, that was it.
Tzvaot, yeah. Tzvaot, Adonai Tzvaot, yeah. Again, that militaristic idea of God.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right, Jill.
So these are ones that I've heard in prayers in the community. Adonai, Hashem, in the Orthodox community, they don't want to talk about God, so they have to give him a name, and that's the name they give him, Hashem. And then Elohai is part of the prayers, so I'm very familiar with those, but there's several that I'm not familiar with.
Well, before you go there, I just want to say, like, Hashem, I also like Hashem because it's very homey, it's very pious. So instead of saying Yod He Vav He, which is the name of God that we never pronounce, instead of saying that, we say Hashem, which means the name.
The name,
so
okay.
I also love that, Hashem. It's very
I love it too. A lot of my
warm and accessible, and
yeah. So I'm very familiar with that. Yeah, so, but there's several here that I've never heard of. So
Uh-huh.
it's an amazing list.
Yeah, so tell me one, tell us one that.
Let's see. The creator, Habarim?
Haboré.
Habaré. Okay. The creator. I've never heard that.
Right. So what's the first book of the Bible is Bereshit, right? In the beginning.
Oh, okay.
So Ha-boré is from the same root.
Oh.
Right. Like, if you think about what's the prayer that we say for wine? Boré pri hagafen. You create the fruit of the vine.
Oh.
So Ha-boré is the creator.
Habaré. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Jen and Mark.
Well, we're kind of in agreement on the our least favorite, which everybody has pretty much covered, which is where is it?
Ish Milchama.
Ish Milchama. Yeah. And also Tzvaot Adonai Tzvaot.
Yeah, Tzvaot. All right, I got to figure out how to redeem those.
And then I'm going to cheat a little because we are both definitely in agreement about our favorite concept, which is Ruach HaOlam or Ruach Hai.
I love that.
That is very much how we
spirit of the world.
Like the,
living spirit.
In Hinduism, it's Brahman, the breath of life. Like that's
yes.
And that's sort of more how I.
Quite simply, I've always, I've always felt the presence of God in the breeze or wind. I always do. It's just a reminder to me.
Nice.
And one very, very short thing, but I remember once when I was little, I was flying on a plane. I was going back home into Seattle, and I happened to be looking out over the water, and it was a beautiful day. So you see the light reflecting off the waves of Lake Washington. And I could literally see the breath of God going across the lake. And I was just mystified by it. It's always stuck with me.
That's so beautiful.
And then the other one that resonated with me, despite myself, because the concept of God as male or any kind of humanoid form does not resonate with me at all. But Avinu Malkeinu resonates with me because it's a prayer, a melody that I've, that has been in my life since before my life. It's it's part of the collective memory of my family, and because of that, I feel most connected, I guess, when I'm singing that melody. I feel more of the presence of God, even though I don't think of God as a father or a king.
Right. Right. So it may not be God as father or king, but, if you think about father as warmth, nurturance, comfort, support, and if you think about king as someone who sets boundaries and encourages and encourages us on the right path. So I think that those concepts of Avinu Malkeinu, if we can look at them more broadly and not just as the masculine father and king, they are accessible concepts.
Right.
I don't know if I mentioned this to you when we were studying High Holidays and we talked about that prayer. So I always relate to Avinu Malkeinu from my military experience as chaplain colonel. So Chaplains are all addressed as chaplain, whether you're a first lieutenant or whether you're a 2-star general. Everybody else is captain so-and-so, major so-and-so, general so-and-so. But chaplain, doesn't matter your rank. You're always chaplain. So the idea is that to me is like the Avinu. You know, the chaplain, it should be that loving, supportive, encouraging persona of Avinu. And that, but we do have a rank. So, you know, that's the colonel part. So when I was in the military, I was chaplain colonel, like that. So chaplain, that's your role, that's how you're addressed. But the colonel part is there. That's the Malkenu. Yeah, you know, I'm still writing your evaluation, and then I can still, you know, give you orders, and you know, that's the. So there's both of those elements of the Avinu and the Malkenu. Brianna and Brad, how you guys doing there?
Good. I'll let Brad go for the one that we both like.
Oh, okay.
We were discussing Rafai Kolim. Is that right? Healer of the sick, our healer. Just with everything that's going on in the world today, it seemed very apt and appropriate.
Absolutely.
And I've always identified with Tikkun Olam, so I feel like that kind of evokes that as well.
So
and
healing
then
the world and healing individuals.
Mm-hmm. And then the one that I personally couldn't really relate to is Go Ali. Just for some reason, it kind of comes from a Christian lens to me, just
My
the need for
Redeemer.
redemption.
Yeah, that's not language that Jews commonly use.
Yeah, so I just couldn't, I felt disconnected from that one.
Yeah. Good. Anna and Alex?
So there were a few that I really liked, but as Jen and Mark said, I really liked the Breath of Life, Ruach Kai, because I feel like it's kind of like an intimate meaning of God. It's like something that's very close to us and is with us all our life is breath. And then the other one that I thought was pretty interesting was the El Mista Tire, God who hides God's self. And I thought that one was interesting because it's kind of speaks to like mystery and how God is invisible, but it's also everything. It's like everywhere, but also not clear to the eye.
And that's actually related to my favorite name, which is not on the list. But I've heard the name of God, or I've heard that Ma is a name of God, or one way that God is referred to, and Ma translates. And so it's just that idea of it all being a mystery.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
So you like this idea of the hiddenness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the one that I didn't really relate to was the judge of all the earth, just because it feels kind of harsh. Like, I get it. It's just kind of harsh.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Georgiana, you there?
I'm here. I just said,
okay.
Yeah. The one, I liked a lot of these, but my favorite, I guess, is very simple. It's just Elohai, my God. It's very
Beautiful.
personal.
Yes.
Very, to really, when I want to connect. And then the one I add to the one, God of War, Man of War, I didn't care for that one. The Ish, Kama, is very rough, tough, and I didn't like that one so much.
Yeah. Oh, well, you're not alone with that.
Yeah.
What about Jessica?
I personally interpret God as immanent and also permeating the world. So I probably would go with Ruach HaOlam as the one I relate to most, but Shekinah is a really close second.
Uh-huh.
But I put Shekinah second because I also don't typically like a lot of gender references, mostly because I'm still struggling to separate the patriarchy that's ingrained in a lot of the religious aspects of it.
Uh-huh.
So I was actually going to say for that reason that I don't relate very much to Alvino Malkenu, but maybe that's just something that I need to start learning to process as a concept rather than the actual text. So off of that, I'll say that I did not relate very much to Moshiach, Savior or Deliverer.
Right. I think that's kind of along the line. Somebody said Go Ali, the Redeemer, that they couldn't quite connect with.
Mostly because I feel like we have a personal responsibility to make ourselves worthy. And yeah, it comes from that Christian idea that if you're sorry enough, then you'll be forgiven. And Judaism does it a little differently.
Right.
That's me.
Good. Marissa.
Yeah, so my answers have all pretty much been said, so I'll be brief. Both Peter and I we like Osei Shalom, just relating God to peace.
Uh-huh.
Like you feel closest to God when you're at peace. I also, me personally, I do really like Avinu Malkeinu because of the melody and just the feeling that I get, and I also like the simple ones, the Hashem and Elohim, just to the point. The ones we didn't relate to for Peter, Kana, the zealous or impassioned. He doesn't like zealous people. And I didn't like Go Ali or anything related to.
Yeah, there you go.
Because, like we said, it just feels more Christian.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you raised about Avinu Malkeinu with, the melody, and I forgot what the other word you used was, but like that sometimes we can move away from the words themselves. And I think you said the feeling, the melody and the feeling. And sometimes it's okay to just connect with the melody and the feeling and move away from the intellectual understanding of the literal sense of the words. Steve, I don't think we've heard from you.
I had to unmute. I'm going to hit my return so I don't kill these things. Is it Makor Kaim?
Yeah, Makor HaChaim.
Makor Kaim, yeah. I relate to that source of life. I've always been one who kind of looks around at life as a sign of God. And so that one really connects with me. I was just looking up at the top. One that doesn't really connect, I don't know if it was mentioned, Adonai El Emet.
Uh-huh.
Did I get that one right? I think that I don't connect with that a lot because I think that people use it to hide behind what they're saying, right? So when somebody comes out and professes that something is a truth, do you need to profess it's the truth if it is the truth? And it's taking it from the religious sense into the, I guess, the real world sense of people going out and saying, this is the truth, right? I don't know how better to express that.
Mm-hmm. So you are not attracted to the idea that there's one truth.
No, I am attracted to that there's one truth, but I'm kind of not attracted to the fact that people will overuse that and use it in the wrong sense. Does that make sense? Because one person's truth is not like another person's truth, but there is only one truth. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure I 100%.
It's like you go into a courtroom. In the courtroom, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But that's the truth from your vantage point or perspective. Right. So.
Yeah, I think remember I mentioned my teacher Zalman Schachter, who said I could swear to tell the truth, I could swear to tell nothing but the truth, but the whole truth. Who knows the whole
Right. So that's one for me that's hard as a concept to look at and believe that we as human beings would use that correctly. Does that make sense?
All right, I think I understand better now. Marissa and Peter, I think we heard from Georgianne, so we're up to Alexis and Jonathan. I see Alexis' beautiful picture there, but are you guys there? No? Mike and Sarah or Carmen?
We can, I can answer.
Okay.
So the one that resonated with me was Oseh Shalom.
Uh-huh.
Just because I can take that in a lot of different meanings. Tikkun Olam was a massive part of my upbringing, and social justice and all of that was just very much a part of, and it is a part of me. So I could see peace being in that, peace in the sense of for those that are ill, giver of peace for those who have passed. So I kind of feel like it can take on multiple meanings of peace. But then what didn't really resonate with me is I can't really wrap my head around the whole my rock, my redeemer. Saying that God is only for me and for no one else feels very weird.
Yeah. I think there's a bit of a consensus on that. Carmen, did you want to weigh in? No. So if you'll turn the page in your handout, you see reformjudaism.org. So I thought this might be interesting for you. This was a rabbi who did a survey among his members of his congregation. Oh, I see. Carmen is in the text box. Creator, incorporating the masculine and feminine, loving, compassionate, determined, but not the warlike qualities. Okay, good. So this is very interesting. So this Rabbi Mark Dov Shapiro surveyed his congregation about what do they believe? So kind of interesting to see where might we fit in with other Reform Jews. So for example, just a fundamental belief in God. Is there a belief in God, however we might define that God? And so 60% did not agree with the statement, there is no God. So that tells me that 40% said, there is God, however we might understand God within that broad latitude. Interesting that there is a gender difference here where women tend to have more of a belief in God than men, and age also was a significant determinant, so that as 51% of respondents in their 20s said, a majority therefore said, science can explain everything. We don't need a belief in God, whereas that slipped down to 17% in their 50s. So as people get older, they have more of a belief. Kind of interesting. So when do people experience a sense of God, a sense of closeness to God? So more than half said at various types of religious ceremonies, an even statistically higher percentage in a natural environment. And this is something I personally hear a lot from people. And particularly if anybody went to a Jewish summer camp, very often people hear, and I see Jen shaking her head, that one of the magical things about summer camp is that you go and you have these prayer services outdoors, and as I like to say, it's very easy to experience a connection to the Creator when you're in the beauty of the creation. So I think there's a correlation there. But while experiencing art, literature, or music, is there anyone who has had an experience that you would be willing to share where you did feel like, wow, I'm in the presence of God. I'm in awe right now. I feel like this is a religious experience. Can you think of a moment when you had that connection?
I don't know about her as a performer, but for me, having performed on stage many times, when you're just so lost in the moment, I don't know if it's a vulnerability or what, but
and a collective energy.
Yeah, there's something about it. It's very sobering for me, but I mean, that's probably when I feel most alive. And at the same time, sort of, I guess I feel like I'm in the presence of something beyond myself.
Wow.
Yeah, I have two. One that actually similar to that, when you're in that crowd, especially with music, and you're all just moving together and you just feel that interconnectedness with everybody. Reading about that in Rabbi Danya Ruttenberg's Surprised by God is actually one of the main reasons that I started to seriously look into conversion. So yeah, definitely resonate with that one. Another one is, I won't get into details because it sounds a little silly, but there was a time recently when I was just feeling completely unsupported and overwhelmed. And basically what I'm recognizing as a theme is like something just comes out of the blue, might be music, might be visual, whatever. That's just like a very obvious reach out for like, no, you are supported, you are loved, that kind of thing. So that was really meaningful to me. The big theme that I recognize is that if it seems like I need like a kick in the pants to do certain things. So that was nice.
I'm just, I'm doing a little search online here real fast. I want to find, this is a beautiful poem. Here it is. I'm going to cut and paste this. I think you'll really like this. From if I can only just cut and paste it. I'm almost there. Trust me. Let me find a different source for it. Okay, here we go. Let's try again. All right, here we go. So that was Jessica, you were just saying, right? So just look at this prayer by Rabbi Rami Shapiro. I think it's so beautiful and really captures what you were saying. We are loved by an unending love. We are embraced by arms that find us even when we are hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us even when we are too proud for soothing. We are counseled by voices that guide us even when we are too embittered to hear. We are loved by an unending love. We are supported by hands that uplift us even in the midst of a fall. We are urged on by eyes that meet us even when we are too weak for meeting. We are loved by an unending love. Embraced, touched, soothed, and counseled. Ours are the arms, the fingers, the voices. Ours are the hands, the eyes, the smiles. We are loved by an unending love. So just,
yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, that really,
Where did you paste that though?
Oh, in the chat box? Do you see?
Can't find it, no.
So if you look at the very bottom of your screen, Marion, you see where it says mute, stop video, security, participants. Next to it, it says chat. At the very bottom of your screen.
Yeah.
So click on chat, and then the chat box will pop up on the right.
Oh.
Do you see it?
I have the Zoom group chat open, but I don't see the poem.
Anybody can help Marianne find that, you think?
What if I do more? No. Chat, says more chat. No. I don't know.
I found it, so if I can find it, you can, okay? It's when you do the chat box and you just tap on that, it comes up.
Oh, now it came up. The other stuff went away. Okay.
All right. You got it?
Yeah.
Fabulous. All right, good. So, so moving through Mark Duff Shapiro. So understanding God. How do people typically in Reformed communities understand God? The traditional Jewish beliefs did not resonate. The idea of God as rewarding and punishing, the idea of God as all-powerful and all just. People had trouble connecting to those ideas. So how did people experience and understanding God? 4 major statements emerged. God is hope. God is love. Healing the sick is godly. And feeding the hungry is godly. So I think that the basic idea that emerges here is God as an adverb. So when we think of God, we think not that God is, but that doing certain things is godly. So I would encourage you to just think about that a little bit. So blank is godly rather than God is blank. Just something to play with. Struggling with faith, congregants are also struggling with faith when innocent people suffer, when there are natural disasters. I think we're at a time right now where we could all relate to the idea of a crisis of faith. And then you'll see on page 4 of 7 a whole list of places where people mention times that they have felt close to God. On the edge of despair, singing in the choir, at the being with someone at the end of life, in nature, in community, and also times when people felt distant from God. And then I love this on page 6 of 7. If God was accepting questions, what would I ask? So you can add to the list yourself, but a lot of questions about the afterlife. What's it going to be like when I die? Am I going to reconnect with loved ones? Apropos of our struggle with Goali, the idea of God as Redeemer. Well, if we're waiting for redemption, when is it going to happen? And then the last thing in your packet, you see a whole just list of statements about God. I believe that God cares what happens to me. I don't believe that God cares what happens to me. So if we were in class tonight, what I have typically done is had each of these statements about God as a strip of paper. And right now I would make you get up from your chair and I would give you a big piece of poster board and you would have to walk around the room and find each of these statements that you connect to and paste them onto your piece of construction paper, and you would come up with your own concept of God put together from what you believe and what you don't believe about God. So we're not going to have a chance to do that exercise. I got a private question here from Jill about, do Jews believe in the afterlife? So where's Jill? Oh, I see you. Hi, Jill. So Jill, were you there when we had our class about death, dying, and afterlife?
Yes.
So, yeah, so you might remember that we did talk about Jewish concept of the afterlife. And let me, I'm going to pull up real fast a couple of resources for you, just as a reminder. So there's a sermon about Jewish concepts of the afterlife, and let's see if I can find one more. Here we go. So there's one more. So, do Jews believe in an afterlife? It's hard to say Jews believe anything because, two Jews, three opinions. Judaism does support the idea of an afterlife, what that looks like, whether it's the immortality of the soul, whether it's the physical resurrection of the body, whether it's reincarnation, whether it's living on through children, good works, good deeds, all of those are part of the Jewish constellation. If you are interested in this, this is the book that I would start with. So this is a kind of a more recent classic work that goes all the way from past lives to reincarnation and everything in between. There's a I can't remember what was Simcha Paul Raphael's book, but it's I can't remember the exact title, but if you look at it, this is like the encyclopedic book about Judaism and the afterlife. The title is probably something like that. And then if you're interested specifically in reincarnation, what's his book? So those are three good resources, on top of the text that I had already given out in our class. So yeah, and feel free to contact me privately if that's if you want to take a look at some of that and explore it. So we're not gonna, I think, go through this exercise, but it will give you an idea that you can almost use this as a checklist to think about. God is a source of comfort. God is not a source of comfort. God is a source of hope. God is not a source of hope. God is like a rock. God is like a shield. God is like a whatever, fill in. But, I want to take our last moments here to just say, wow, when we began this class, who could have imagined that this is what our last class would be like? You do have Rabbi Sarah Mason Barkin next week. That's going to be a super interesting discussion. But I want to allow, you will get an evaluation form from the Union for Reform Judaism. So we would really appreciate if you would take a minute and give some feedback, because that's how we grow and improve, is by getting some feedback about what was good, what could be better. But let's allow a few moments for final questions, comments, reflections, feedback, whatever you've got.
I would like to just thank you, Rabbi, for doing so much of this work. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very sweet. It's my honor and pleasure.
It's Georgianne. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good. Okay, because I'm not used to this Zoom stuff here. Anyway, I just learned so many new things, even after my experience at the Kabbalah Center for 10 years and being familiar with things. But it just broadened everything about everything for me. And after every class, I was for days thinking about a lot of the things that we talked about and saw everything in a new light, and especially converting into Judaism, hopefully soon. I always struggled with what could be a Jewish identity for me, because I didn't feel I could find one, but now I feel I can have one. I'm starting to think that way. So
good.
A big thing for me. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Okay.
There we go.
I'd like to thank the other people in the class, actually, if that's okay. It's been really great to hear everybody's perspectives and to have people who are coming at this from kind of so many different backgrounds and reasons. And that really meant a lot to me, and kind of thinking about what was important to me and why I was in the class and what I wanted to study. So thank you all very much. It's really been a pleasure.
Question. The end of one of the prayers that ends in Emet Adonai Elohechem Emet, then the cantor always says he started saying at the end now, and repeats that Emet. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Why is he doing that, or what does that mean?
Right before Micha Mocha.
Okay.
So it's a very specific answer, Marianne. So there's a certain number of words in the Shema, and when we pray the Shema privately, we start off with 3 words before the Shema. And when we pray the Shema publicly, we omit those. And then the cantor repeats at the end, Adonai Elohechem Emet, so that we have the integrity of the same number of words. So it has to do with the gematria of the number of words in the Shema.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So you have been a fantastic class. Rabbi Mason Barkin, she just got in on you all lately, and she was, blown away by what a great group it was. And I know she's looking forward to next week. So, I'll just say that, once you're rabbi, always your rabbi. So if there's anything I can ever do for any of you, you're always welcome at Temple Chai, classes, services, whatever it is. Don't be a stranger. It's hard to say goodbye, so please be in close touch.
Thank you.
All right. And
Can I add one more thing?
Yes, please.
I'll mention this next week as well, but a couple of us are trying to put on a Shabbat dinner, a virtual Shabbat dinner for anybody interested in joining.
Nice.
Yeah, this will be not this Friday, but next Friday.
Beautiful.
So it'll be after the course shuts down. So if
all right, when you've got the distro list, so be in touch with each other.
Yeah, I'll send an email out through the distribution list so people know who to contact for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I love it. Okay. And I'll send a recording of this class to the whole group too, so everybody can have it.
Thank you very much
for all of your time and all of the effort you've put into everything, Rabbi.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Really appreciate the insight and whatnot that you've provided.
All right. Everybody stay safe and healthy.
You too.
You as
Bye
well.
bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.